I told you this was a powerhouse morning because I have the great pleasure of being able to move us into the 4 papers that we're presenting for this morning session. And the papers are all papers that have been vetted and selected, and as Gail mentioned, there were over 100 papers submitted for this event. So these papers are the ones that were really selected to be shared with the best conclusions, the things that are most actionable for you. And these are these 10-minute windows, so people are covering a great deal of ground very quickly. I would like to first call up, and I told you this is a powerhouse, so I'm a little embarrassed introducing some of these people because they are incredibly well known to all of you. But the first paper is being brought to us by Duane Varan from Media Science and Artie Bulgrin from ESPN. Talk about screens everywhere, which is sort of very fitting after our morning panels. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joan. Awesome couple of panels, very appropriate to get us started this morning. Erwin Efron once said that different media do different things, and that's in fact why we use them, and that's why we're here today. And Duane and I are going to talk about 5 simple key principles to help us optimize content and also advertising so they work best on the multiple platforms that are out there. We're going to be citing data from a number of different sources. One will be Project Blueprint. One will be our own internal analytics data. Another will be a new tool that we've actually been building for about the last year and a half called the Convergence Effectiveness Modeling Tool. And in that case, we've been actually tracking and being able to model advertising and ad performance across our different platforms and measure the effect on those platforms as well as the different content types on delivering different ad performance metrics. And Duane will also be citing results from his lab in Austin, Texas, also known as Media Science, also known as the ESPN lab. So we'll get started with the first principle. I'll turn it over to Duane.
Okay. So this is an oldie but a goodie. It's something we've shared many times. It's a principle that we first discovered 10 years ago in the Beyond 30 Seconds project. In those days, we had to test it using classic iPods because there were no mobile devices in the market that could actually handle video. But for 10 years now, we have consistently found that other things being equal, the impact of a video ad seen on a mobile device is just the same as it is on a PC device, as it is on a TV device. The impact is the same. Now, the key is other things being equal. Same program, same ad load, same ad, everything exactly the same. And what we've discovered is that basically your TV viewing experience at home becomes a point of reference, and that the smaller the screen, the closer you hold it to produce the same relative viewing angle, which is why we see this result.
And this has proven itself to be true actually in the field, again, based on our CEM tool. Here we can see, as we look at just TV only, we see the level of purchase intent at that level. And as we add these different platforms, as our advertisers appear on our different platforms through different content types, we can see incremental value to that, a tremendous multiplier effect in increasing purchase intent. So what's true in the lab in this case is true also in the field. But it's important to know that we have to optimize for these effects. It's not, we just don't throw the advertising on these different platforms. We marry them in such a way that it's integrated and it produces these effects. Now, but we also know that content matters by platform. And this is just one example for ESPN, where we have to understand sort of the use case, the needs and occasions that sort of drive users to our different platforms. And in this case, we're talking about our digital platforms. And this is the month of October last year, just on Sundays, where, by the way, ESPN doesn't air any NFL football. In fact, we have actually very little live content on these particular Sundays. And I'm focusing here on our digital content, where during NFL game time, we actually deliver about 1.6 million users in the average minute. And about 70% of that usage is occurring on mobile platforms. So again, the need there is for NFL fans to actually follow the NFL content when they can't be watching the game, so they're displaced somewhere, or they could be in the room watching a game, but not their team, and so they're following action in other cases. So this is something that we need to be sensitive to, and we have to optimize for in terms of driving ad effects.
And so even though you get the same effect by across platforms, you can actually get stronger effects if you optimize the content for the particular platform, which is the classic lesson of integrated marketing communications. So on the left here, we're looking at 2 exposures across different platforms, so same platform, versus 2 exposures across different platforms. And in this chart on the left, what you see is these are the results that you get if the content is the same across those platforms. But if you actually optimize the content, and what we mean here is that that content actually responds to people's motivation for being on the device, or it responds to some of the unique characteristics of the device, then you actually significantly boost the effect. So you're able to actually get a stronger effect by optimizing the content to the platform, rather than just reproducing the same content across platforms. And one of the key things that you can do on many of these new platforms is, of course, interactivity. And across many studies, we consistently demonstrate that interactivity delivers superior ad impact.
Now, we've also learned that on ad platforms, sequence can matter. And this is a scatter chart where we've plotted the different platforms and different content types based on our CEM data, based on the speed at which, and we're looking at ad awareness here, the speed to which each different platform can drive ad awareness, and then the maximum potential of that platform and content type. And I'm highlighting here in the circles, looking at digital video both on mobile and online, as well as compared to television. And what we're seeing here in terms of the vertical axis, the speed to which mobile video can drive ad impact is pretty good. But the maximum potential of television is still far greater, which tells us that there can be something to the sequence in which we implement advertising on these platforms.
And so we have a paper in last year's Journal of Advertising Research where we demonstrate that the nature of any potential synergy effects associated with cross-platform are inherently sequential in nature. The sequence does matter. So here you're looking at basically both aided awareness and unaided awareness, and what the differences are between 2 TV exposures, a PC-TV combination where people see it on the PC first and then on the TV, or TV-PC combination. And what you see is that the sequence matters. Seeing it on television, which is capable of really building more awareness, should precede really the other platforms.
Now, another area that we've addressed here is two-screen activity. A lot of talk in the industry that everybody is doing something at the same time while they're watching TV. Well, a lot of us do it. That might be true. And in fact, over 80% of us, at some point in time over the course of a month, is using some other device while watching television. But the impact, the amount of time that we spend doing it is not that great. This is Blueprint data. And if we look at convergent activity for PC, smartphone, and TV or tablet while watching television, if we look at that activity as a percent of television viewing time, it's relatively small, just 1% for TV or PC usage to 3.3% for TV smartphone usage. So a lot of us do it. We don't spend a lot of time with it, doing it in the context of our total television viewing time. But there are segments where this becomes significant. If we look at it as a percent of device time for PCs, smartphones, and tablets, it can be significant, as much as 15%, and it could be growing. But the fact is that 2 screens are likely to distract unless there is some synchronous or some sameness to the activity.
So this is the results from an in-home video ethnography that we did. It was only 9 households, but it was 9 households where we put cameras in their households, and we filmed them over a 2-week period. What we then did is we actually looked at their eye movement when they were using a device, and their eye movement, they were watching television. So this is completely naturalistic, testing them in their own home environments. And what we found was, now again, as Artie pointed out, they're not always using both devices at the same time. In fact, the majority of their television viewing is without the device present. But when they do use the device, they're actually spending more time with their eyes on the device than they are spending with their eyes on television. And so now, as 2-screen becomes more commonplace, the reality is that the second screen at that point in time is not the second screen, it's actually the first screen. And this represents a much bigger threat to our industry than fast forwarding or any other types of ad avoidance that we've worried about in the past. Because this is some research that we've done that shows when people walk and chew gum at the same time, it's a very difficult task. In this case, when you see the presence of an ad, while you are on a second screen device, ad impact suffers enormously. So this is a huge problem for the industry, which really represents a growing problem going forward. However, we have also found that two screens can complement one another. And one of the key principles that we've discovered that is a remedy to the problem that you saw on the last slide is the principle that we call the cognitive bridge. So this is also research coming out of our Beyond 30 Seconds project, where we've demonstrated that if you see a banner that's significant enough to warrant your attention on the second screen device simultaneous to the TV ad occurring, your brain basically no longer switches it out, no longer filters it out, and you simultaneously process both streams of data. So this is the remedy to the problem, to the distraction problem, and here you see 3 different types of second screen content that we created with the presence of that banner, demonstrating that we've provided a remedy to the problem we talked about before. And this is just another example in practice. During the BCS, we developed a number of simulcast tools to really look at complementing rather than competing content.
So 4 key takeaways to sum up what we've shared here today. First, use screens to build reach, because in fact the same content delivers the same impact across screens. Number 2, optimize content to the unique character of each screen. Understand what that platform is being used for, what that screen is being used for, and for people's reason for being there. And make sure that you plan your sequence right. Particularly if it's driving brand or ad awareness, it's usually television first. And then finally, build the second screen content that complements rather than competes with the first screen. We thank you very much.